Are you enjoying this new adventure in your life of caring for your plants and doing YouTube for us? What is an onion weed? Is it an onion? What does Vegemite taste like? What is the coldest it gets in your area? What is the next cactus you're looking for? What is your favorite columnar cacti in your collection? Do you think there is such a thing as being overly creative? Are there any succulents or plants that you regret getting? Just gonna rip it out. All right, I'm answering questions from the comments. Most of these have already been answered in the comments, but I thought it'd be good to make a video out of it. You asked really great questions, and there are probably a few people thinking the same thing. I really wanted to do a Q&A while doing some chores, but it's raining. It's raining forever. It rained yesterday, it rained last night, it rained this morning, it rained this afternoon, it's gonna rain tonight, and it's gonna rain tomorrow as well. And I need to get this video filmed. So we're just gonna be here. I know that people love seeing the backdrop of my garden, and trust me, I love showing it off too. But this is gonna have to suffice. Cereus Blue is here with us. I don't know why you're still here. You bloomed ages ago, so you should have been returned to your original spot. Actually, we moved you here because we didn't want you to get more sun damage. That's right. This was supposed to be blue, but she's green. Anyway, she's sticking around for the Q&A. If you need your fix of the raised beds, I will insert some footage here and here. Oh, and here is Mount Suck. We haven't seen Mount Suck in a while, and I will throw in another shot here. And hopefully that fills your quota for the week. Okay, so before we get to the main bulk of the questions, there are 3 questions that I need to address from Forever a Succulent Addict. You asked these questions 6 months ago, and unfortunately they didn't make the cutoff for the last Q&A. Like, I had finished filming before I received these questions, so I'm making it a priority to answer these 3 questions right now. So the first question you asked 6 months ago was, as far as a planty question, what have you found to be the most challenging when it comes to growing succulents plants for you personally? And are there any succulents or plants that you regret getting? The most challenging thing? Moving house. That would be the most challenging thing. Not just in terms of logistically moving all of the plants, but I think starting again and kind of like having a new space, because we're renting. Maybe renting's the most challenging thing about growing. No, I don't want that to be a problem. I don't want renting to deter people from doing things with plants in their garden. And maybe I can make a video on that. But for me, it would be moving house, because that you're changing their environment, you're learning, I don't know, it's kind of a blessing in disguise, because gardening is all about the lessons for me. When you switch up their environment, you have an opportunity to learn new things about your plants and to learn new things about, you know, how plants adapt to climate. And am I one of those sickly people that's like, oh, every challenge is an opportunity to learn something? Like, some things really suck. Like fucking mealybugs, they suck. They're one of the worst things about plants. But yeah, I would probably say moving house. Moving house, let's go with that. You know what else is really frustrating me at the moment? I'm looking at my bougainvillea Hawaiian gold, and its leaves are curling at the moment. When leaves start responding to something, it's like the same one symptom for 50 different problems. You've either overwatered, you've either underwatered, it's getting too much light, it's getting not enough light, you didn't fertilize enough. Sometimes there's been a drastic change in temperature, and then the leaves will respond in the same way. Like, what? Could you not have evolved to give us different symptoms for different problems? Throw us a bone here. Help me help you. Help me help you. That I find really frustrating. You could have overwatered. You could have well, which one is it? We're just about to head into summer. All of those things could be happening right now. It could be overwatered from the amount of rain that we've been getting. It also could be drying up because of the heat. It's 38 degrees one day and then it drops 15 degrees the next day. Like, that's what's frustrating me at the moment. As for the succulents or plants that I regret getting, I don't regret getting a particular type of plant, but you know what? I wish, if I could start over again, I would not get as many small plants and invest more money into getting fewer mature plants. Does that make sense? Like, I would want to be a little bit more intentional with the bigger plants that I buy. I'm not too fussed whether something is particularly rare or not, just whether it looks good in a garden, whether it serves as a nice focal point in the garden. That's more what I'm kind of concerned about. I mean, you know, Tim really loves the smaller collection of cactus and succulents, and I'm a bit of a sucker for, you know, if I see something in Bunnings, I'll just be like, oh my God, like my pupils would dilate and I'll get a little bit high. But yes, I think if I could do it all over again, I would just want to invest in more sculptural pieces for the garden. And you know what? I feel like I might be dead before some of these cacti reach maturity. We don't have much time. We need the big plants now. That's what I regret. Okay, next question. Second question from Forever a Succulent Addict. You make such beautifully edited videos. Oh, thank you. This was 6 months ago, so hopefully I have upskilled since then. I am always trying to improve my videos in some way or another. Did you take a class for creating and editing videos, or did you figure it out all by yourself? Okay, I did 1 semester on filmmaking at university. So within our theatre making degree, we had the option of taking filmmaking as an elective, and that's what I chose. It was only for 1 semester, but I learned editing there. It was many, many, many moons ago. But you know what has really helped? As a theatre maker and as a theatre artist, I had to do a lot of my own marketing and PR. So it meant that I had to cut my own trailers, I had to Photoshop my own photographs, I had to do my own social media. And particularly when we started doing more on socials, I'd be like editing video reels for Instagram and Facebook. So editing wasn't entirely new to me once I started doing YouTube videos. But yes, it is really hard. Editing is so time consuming and you have to really be patient. Were there specific videos you found useful to help you create and edit? I just YouTube it. If I have a problem with DaVinci Resolve, I just YouTube it. That's it. Tim bought me this sticker that says, I'm not an expert, but I've watched the YouTube videos, which is pretty much the whole premise for the morning chorus. Like, I'm not an expert gardener, but I did watch Laura Eubanks during the pandemic. Oh, follow-up question. How long does it take you to edit your videos? 2 days. I'm not lying, it takes me 2 days. You need to really love being a content creator to put up with 2 days of editing. Okay, so this is now the most recent bulk of questions. How often do you water your succulents? I have some in pots, but I would like to place them in the ground. I have my sprinkler go off twice a week. Would it kill the succulents if placed in the ground? Please advise as you have experience. Thank you. Okay, so I know that there's a lot of advice on the internet around watering succulents. If I had followed everything that I'd heard on the internet without considering my own context, like my own climate, my own environment, I would have killed my succulents by now. I would have dehydrated them because the internet made me so afraid of watering. And it's the same thing that I have to ask you, what is your climate? The best way to understand how often you need to water is to understand your climate. Are you on the other side of the equator about to go into winter? Definitely you're going to be paring back on watering. Are you somewhere in Australia where you're about to go into summer? Maybe you might need to step up the watering as we go into the summer months. But even then, like, there are so many different climates around Australia. Australia is massive. It is so diverse. I've got listeners in Queensland that are doing things differently from what I'm doing. Listeners, did I say listeners? I mean viewers. I've got viewers in Perth that are doing things differently from what I'm doing. It really just all depends on your environment. The best thing to do is to just experiment. I wouldn't plant them in the ground straight away if you're super unsure. Maybe move the pots to where the sprinklers are and then just see how it goes. But if the sprinklers are going on twice a week, just make I wouldn't do that in winter. Like, are you somewhere that's about to go into summer? If so, then that might be okay. But really, everything that I do on my channel, everything any gardener does on their channel, you need to be adjusting that for your own environment. I know that doesn't give you a straight answer, but it does mean that you need to keep experimenting. And if you the more you experiment, the more you're going to learn about your own plants as well. Soil as well. Like, if you've got clay soil in the ground, you might need to amend that before you put the succulents in, especially if you're watering twice a week. You know? I know. It's like there's no one straight answer. Like those freaking bougainvillea leaves, there's no one straight answer, but it's just about experimenting. I'm eating my own words here. All right, how are you going to go if you have to move? Won't all those plants need to come back out, or will you cut your losses and leave them? The specimens are coming out of the ground. The cactus specimens are coming out of the ground. I might leave some of the more common plants in there, but the specimens, they're coming out, they're coming with us. And yes, it's going to be a lot of hard work. We're going to need a few hands on deck, but we understood that when we put the plants in the ground here. Yep. That's how we're going to do it. Do you think the bagged soil you used had the onion weed in it? Oh, that must have been from a video where I was doing a lot of planty chores. No. Onion weed is very prolific in our area. Like every garden I pass by on the street has it, and the incredibly frustrating thing is that they're all in flower at the moment. Like everyone's got it in their garden in my neighborhood. I hate onion weed. I hate it so much. Dumb question, but what is an onion weed? Is it an onion? Not a dumb question. There are so many plants that are named after things that they're not. It's not a dumb question. Onion weed is a type of garlic and it just spreads its seed very quickly. You can eat them. It is edible. I refuse to eat them. I feel like eating them would justify them in some kind of way. So eating them is not happening. What does Vegemite taste like? A lot of people say that it tastes like soy sauce in paste form. It's very salty. It's very bitter. I would avoid spreading it on toast like it's Nutella, and please eat it with a butter or an oil spread. Hey Shy, I love the job on the silver dollar vine. I have one and the leaves on the last vine put out a very light green color. I am wondering if they react like that if given too much light. When it comes to silver dollar vines, the new growth will always be a bit of a lighter shade of green than the rest of the plant. It will darken as it grows and hardens off. Would you like to see what a silver dollar vine looks like if it's been given too much light? So this is the one that I potted up a couple of videos ago. I repotted rather. It's just been out in the rain getting watered, but I left it outside on one of the 40-degree days, possibly both of the 40-degree days, and this is what's happened to it. Yes. Oh, and right here. That's what happens when it gets too much light. It's totally savable. I'm sure that it will bounce back fine. It didn't die altogether, but I'm upset. What are the clips that you used on the silver leaf vine, the silver dollar vine? I didn't know they made such a thing. I would definitely use those. Those are from Amazon, and yes, they are very useful. I use them to clip together stalks. I use them to clip together branches. I clip climbing plants to trellises with them. I'll link it below. All right, I got a couple of questions asking about how cold it gets in our winters here in Sydney. What is the coldest it gets in your area? Because I was wondering if you have a winter season. How do you keep your cactus protected from cold temperatures, especially the ones in the ground? I love your collection. Thank you. Are there any succulents that you have to prepare for winter or winterize? I live in 9B climate in Florida. For the most part, it doesn't get under 30 degrees, I'm assuming Fahrenheit, on the small number of cold days we have, but it's been happening more in recent years. I'll bet it has been. New succulent mum, thanks. Welcome to the club. So firstly, the coldest that it gets here in Sydney is about 1 or 2 degrees Celsius. That I think is, let me just check, 1 degree Celsius to Fahrenheit. So 1 degree Celsius is 33.8 in Fahrenheit. I think it's gotten to -8 in Greater Sydney before, like one suburb of Greater Sydney, it hit -8 one year, but I think that was a record low for us. I don't winterize cactus. It's not necessary here. 1-2 degrees Celsius, that just gets very cold. It doesn't really give us any frost, and frost is the thing that will kind of start to damage cactus. Probably if I was further up the Blue Mountains or where Liz Kay lives in Canberra, probably then I would start to think about winterizing, but here I don't have to. I'm really, really lucky. I've not lost one cactus over a winter. I think I lost a euphorbia last winter, but never a cactus. Kerry! Wondering how the scale is going on your opuntia. Have you tried removing it? Was it successful? What method do you use? We can see, is it raining? Maybe it's not raining so much. We can go see now. Okay. So I don't know if you can see, so that is a blister because it's not coming off easily. Sometimes a small cactus blister like this and a bit of scale will look the same, but if it peels off, like that is a bit of scale right there. This would be scale. No, it's a blister. No, it's scale. Okay, this is doing pretty well. There's nowhere near as much scale as there used to be. There was also like scale down here, but that seems to have cleared up quite well. And this is clearing up. I only sprayed this once and I probably should treat it again. Obviously, I'm not gonna treat it while it's raining, and it started raining again now, so I'm gonna go. So what we use for scale is isopropyl alcohol diluted, 50% isopropyl alcohol, 50% water. We did used to use neem oil, but that would ruin the farina on a lot of the blue cacti. cacti, and it was always the blue cacti that got scale, like our Matillo cactus. We've got a Matillo cactus over there that we did treat with neem oil, and it just ruined the skin. So we started just doing the 50% alcohol, 50% water spray, and that seems to have cleared the scale whilst also protecting the farina. Same with the Opuntia Burbank, because that does have a blue coating of the farina. We use the same spray for that, and that seems to be doing fine. Even after one application, it actually got rid of quite a bit of scale. Eunice, hello from a fellow Filipino in Melbourne. Magandang hapon. That's about as much Tagalog as you're going to get out of me. I was actually doing Tagalog lessons for a while there, so I was born in the Philippines, but when we migrated here, my parents spoke to me in English, so I didn't grow up speaking Tagalog, and I was just learning the language now as an adult, and I had to stop because of work, and it just wasn't fitting into my schedule, but I really should start up again. I would love to speak more Tagalog. Loving your videos and all your plants, thank you. How do you control weeds? Do you always just pull them out? Yes, I pull them out by hand for the most part, mostly because they're in and among other plants. I don't really want to use chemicals in the pots or in the garden beds. A lot of those plants are very precious, they're very expensive, and I wouldn't just want to accidentally lose them to weed killer. We have sprayed stuff on the pavements before, and that worked out fine, but the weeds just always bounce back. You know the deal. I don't use mulch as a weed suppressant just because so much of what I plant is cactus and succulents. I'm always trying to get the soil to dry out as quickly as possible. I found ground covers to be a really good weed suppressant though. So things like the chrysocephalum, when that first went into the ground, it took a minute for the weeds to slow down, but eventually they did. But ground covers are also part of my aesthetic. Like, not everyone will use them as part of a cactus and succulent garden bed. I do use rocks as top dressing. I mean, weeds still do get through that like everything else. I don't know, maybe I'm not layering it on as thick. There is a concentrate that I did pick up from the nursery. Hang on. All right, this Yates Zero Weed Killer. It's a super concentrate. The active ingredient is glyphosate as isopropylamine salt. No idea what that means. So this was recommended for onion weed. This is non-selective, so it could kill wanted plants and grass if they are sprayed, which is why I haven't used any of it yet. What was advised to me was that I could paint the onion weed leaves and see how that goes. Again, if any roots of a plant that I wanted to keep were in touch with the onion weed bulb, I ran the risk of also, damaging those roots as well. So I just didn't want to try it. I'd have to find like an isolated onion weed, which I think there are quite a few in the garden. I just haven't gotten around to it yet. But I'd have to find something isolated and see if it worked, like actually painting it on. That's what was recommended to me, as opposed to spraying. But otherwise, I'm just pulling the weeds out when I see them. Hi, Shai. Good day. Do you also have Astrophytum cactus and Euphorbia obesa, affectionately known as the baseball cactus, in your collection? Yes, I do, and I will show them to you right now. This is the Euphorbia obesa. I'm not too sure why it's brown. I hope that's not sun damage. It probably is. It otherwise looks and feels fine. It doesn't look damaged, so, maybe it's just turning a different color for the season. There. I have a cluster of astrophytums in an arrangement. It's currently raining, so I will get footage of that later and put it here. We also do have this astrophytum. This one is an astrophytum onzuka right there. A little bit wet from the rain, but otherwise doing fine. Oh, the astrophytum in the arrangement also flowered recently. So I'll put a picture of that up here. Hello, Shai, new subscriber here from Argentina. My question is, do Oreocereus or Espistoas get sunburnt too? Do they survive the midday sun? My Argentinian friends, these cacti are from your part of the world. Well, not specifically Argentina. They're from, I think, Peru. The Andes of Peru, but I think they are built to withstand whatever your environment is going to throw at them. From my experience, they don't get sunburnt. None of them have gotten sunburnt in my garden. We can have a look. We might need to have a look a little bit later when it stops raining. But the layer of hair acts as protection from both the sun and the cold. Very smart plant. But yeah, when it stops raining, we'll go around and have a look, and I'll put the footage here. Okay, let's start with this one. This one looks pretty green underneath. I don't see any sign of sunburn here. No. These ones look very healthy. I can see a little bit of like browning here, but that's just age, I think. This is a cactus called Gwen. Looks fairly green underneath all of that hair. There is a little bit of browning underneath
hair here, but I don't think that's sunburn. It might just be aging, or I don't know, but it doesn't look like sunburn. This one gets morning sun until about mid-afternoon, and it's looking pretty green. This one here is, again, I think it's looking pretty healthy, except for this part down here. I don't know what's going on down here. Might be getting, I don't know. I think this needs a repot because this pup has stayed the same size for the longest time. Like, I think this started to emerge before winter and it stayed this size all season. Might be time for a repot. I think it will need a repot. It's a bit hot to do it now, but at some point it'll need a repot.
Can you do a video on succulents in your collection that grow over summer versus the ones that grow in cooler months? Thanks. Yes, I can. You know what? I'm going to put it in my topics list right now. Summer growers versus winter growers. Seriously, if you want me to make a video on a specific topic, I'm open. Someone did suggest that I do a repotting video on the Perodia Lettinghausii, like dividing it and then repotting it, but we've actually got plans for that Perodia, which is why we haven't done that yet. But really, just suggest a topic and I'm open to it. Do you work on pollinating your cacti for fruits to eat? They are amazing. Also, do you think everyone should get plants for mental health improvement? Growing cacti has been so good for my depression. Firstly, I don't specifically work the cacti so that they can grow fruit, but I would love them to. We have a mellow cactus that does fruit, and I really wanted to try the fruit with like ice cream or yogurt. The last batch of fruit it produced died before we could get to that, but I'm waiting for it to fruit again so that we could eat it on video. For you. How entertaining. I hope I don't die. I would love for the Opuntia to produce fruit. I would love that, but I'm a bit less fussed. I need it to grow into a sculptural thing first. I think that the more that it matures, it will be more likely that it'll fruit. So I'm just gonna let it do its thing in a while. I'm not gonna hurry it, but you know, yeah, look, if they can grow fruit, please grow fruit. I would love that. And yes, I would always encourage people to connect with plants as a way to support their mental well-being. It's not a cure for anxiety or depression, but it can be helpful in managing both of those things. Interacting with nature produces dopamine. Gardening is an activity that engages all of the senses, and that in itself encourages you to be present. More research needs to be done on this to 100% confirm this, but there is a microbe in soil that may stimulate serotonin production, which, you know, can lower stress levels. I hate using gloves while gardening. Obviously, if you need to for medical or safety reasons, please use them. Tim would probably like me to use them more often because of spiders in the garden. I probably should. For me, I love handling soil. I love the tactile experience of it. Maybe the serotonin is why. I don't know. Serotonin. Blackgate Garden. What is the next cactus you're looking for? Look, if anyone can find me a mature-sized fire barrel cactus that doesn't cost the sum of my organs, I'd be over the moon. Look, we have small fire barrels here, but the first time we went to cactus country, we saw a mature fire barrel and it was like having a religious experience. And we've wanted one ever since, but they are so damn expensive and they're slow growers. I think that one of the babies that we've got is a propagate from the mother plant that we saw at cactus country, which I think is really special. I love that. How do you root cactus cuttings? I stick them in soil. I have the climate to do that, so I'm very lucky that I don't need to give them any extra special treatment. I have used rooting hormone gel in the past, like I think, yeah, this one here. I have used this in the past. So this is for soft and semi-hardwood cuttings. I haven't found that it makes a great difference, but if you live in a climate where it might need the extra help, I'd recommend that. Otherwise, I do it the au natural way. Stick them in soil, put them in shade for 6 weeks, then introduce them to morning light until it can stay in the sun all day. What is your favorite columnar cacti in your collection? It changes all the time, but right now it's that cereus blue that's in the garden bed. I am not fussy with rare or expensive cacti, and I think that makes me more of a designer than a collector, but I love that cereus blue. I love that there's 4 columns coming out of like the one stump. It's very sculptural and it's a real focal point for the garden bed. So I like the many arms. The Espestoa right next to it is also like, I think anything giant just impresses me because it takes so long for cacti to grow. Like, I know what it takes. Anyway, both of those are really happy where they are now. I like that cereus blue better than the 2 Mexican fence posts that we've got in pots right now, and they're actually taller. The thing is, I haven't found a way to embed them into the landscape in a way that I'm really satisfied with. They're sort of in spots where they can get the most sun, but they need to be worked into like the garden design a little bit more. Hi Shai, thanks for another awesome video. I love when you talk about creativity. I work in a creative art field, mostly teaching ceramic techniques and pottery building methods. I love what I do, but I'm worn out. I've been doing this for 20 years. I spend all my time creating art programs, producing them, and ultimately facilitating them. Do you think there is such a thing as being overly creative? Too much creativity? As in, can it be bad for you, so to speak? Just curious to know what your thoughts are. Okay, so this was in response to the My Garden, My Sanctuary video. If this is the first video of mine that you're watching, then I'll just provide a little bit of context. I used to work in the arts, specifically in theatre, and I've created a couple of videos where I speak about what it's been like. I love this question. I've kind of already responded to it, but you know, let's rant on camera. I don't think that having an abundance of creativity is inherently a problem. Sometimes engaging with the arts can feel incredibly invigorating, and other times it's overwhelming and it'll just be out of sync with what you need. When you say that you spend all of your time creating, producing, and facilitating arts programs and that you love what you do, but you feel completely worn out, I am 1000% with you. I was an artistic director and I was a creative director, and I was responsible for making and delivering programs that housed creative activity. And producing programs is not quite the same as being the artist. And I felt like I was contributing and I guess making a difference, so to speak, but it would limit the amount of time that I would find myself fully immersed in creative flow. So teaching, for example, I taught a lot. I did a lot of teaching. I facilitated a lot of workshops. Those things can certainly have their creative moments, but I'd argue that it's not quite the same as being in your own creative zone. So as a facilitator, you're carrying slightly different responsibilities. There's the duty of care, there's the preparation, there's administrative planning that comes with that role, and there's also people management. That is a huge part of facilitation. And people management, especially when I was managing a group of artists, that was the thing that I found the most challenging. And while, you know, it was rewarding in some capacity, those creative moments kind of felt a little bit different. Like they felt a little bit less personal, a little bit less like it was for me, and like I don't know. It was just different. I think that it is so essential that you carve out time, that you have the discipline to carve out time for your own creativity, especially because being an artist today also means being a business person. So much of your time is consumed with admin and logistical tasks and hustling that it becomes very easy to lose sight of your core creative practice. So that's why finding time to immerse yourself in creative flow where you're not worrying about those other things is so important. So when I talk about flow, I'm talking about the state where you're fully absorbed, immersed, energized, and inspired by a creative activity. I think the key question is to ask yourself if your creative practice is nourishing you or if it's draining you. And if it's the latter, then there's no shame in taking a step back to reassess what you need and how you can move forward with your practice. And sometimes taking a pause is exactly what you need in order to rediscover what your purpose is in the work. The other thing that I will add is that I think it's incredibly important to engage with creative activities outside of your core practice. So for me, that was gardening. And I've said this before, but the garden became a space where I could disconnect and tap into creativity in a completely different way. I'm also terrible at playing the piano. I learned it as a child and I haven't kept it up since, but I get so immersed in trying to learn a new song that I completely lose track of time. Like that's what is meant by flow. Finding that state of flow in other activities that aren't tied to your main practice and are just purely for you, just because they give you joy, it can be so refreshing. Thank you for the question. I loved it. Are you enjoying this new adventure in your life of caring for your plants and doing YouTube for us? Yes, YouTube is tough. It is not easy, let me tell you. But you know what? I got my relentless work ethic from a life in the theater, and I have a vision for where I want to take YouTube. You're not getting rid of me anytime soon. But working with plants, it was a much needed shift. Here's a new one. Hi, only discovered your channel recently. I live at the Gold Coast, have enjoyed watching, and my succulents and cacti have helped me get through the last 4 years with health issues, so thank you. I also watched Laura Eubanks and Liz Kay. You're all very informative. Your garden is looking so good. Well, thank you. I'm sorry to hear that you've been dealing with health issues, but I'm equally as happy to hear that plants have been helping you through that. Thank you for sharing that. How nice to be named among 2 succulent queens as well. That is very humbling. Right, I'm just going to check for any more questions. Ah, there's one more. How have plants helped you through any journey? Also, I really like your videos. I wish I could give 1,000 likes. Aww. What's your favorite plant in this day? Which plants have been different? What is your least favorite plant? Thank you for your videos. There's like 4 questions here. Oh, I just was about to wrap up this video, but okay, I'll quickly answer these. Sorry, the battery ran out and I had to kind of do the recharging thing, but it's getting quite dark. So I'm going to answer these really quickly before I wrap up. So how plants have helped me through any journey. It was a lifeline for me when I was coping with terrible anxiety and burnout. And like I mentioned before, it became another creative outlet for me outside of my main artistic practice, which was theater. What's your favorite plant today? My favorite plant is, you know what? I'm going to show you one that I've just noticed recently that's been doing really well. Actually, you know what? I'm going to bring two that I've really admired. They're small ones, but hang on. Okay, this is a crassula. It's a crassula something or other. I love this. Look at this. A lot of the leaves have shriveled up down here. Like I think this might all be dried, but I'm getting some new babies like down here. This usually isn't on my radar because it kind of sits in amongst all the other plants, but I noticed it the other day and I was like, oh wow, that's really bouncing back. It didn't look this great before. It was struggling, but ever since it's been outside, it's like been living its best life. Crassula something. I'll find the name and I'll put it up on the screen for you. And the other one is this aloe dichotoma. This is the one that grows to be a tree. I just love the color of it right now. So yeah, they're 2 of my favorite plants right now, like at this very minute. Which plant have been different? You mean like surprised me? Like behave differently, surprised me? I mean, this one's pretty different. I don't know, I'll have to go snooping. Hang on, this is not going to answer your question, but a bit of an emergency. I think this one has suffered from sun shock. Oh no, it's so soft. Oh, this is not supposed to be this soft. It's a cactus. It's like a monstrosing, what do you call it? It's a bossacana, I think. That's had a mutation and I think it got quite sun stressed. It's very soft. Wow, no. Oh no, Tim's gonna be so disappointed. So soft. Okay, all right, that one's gonna need attending. Which plant is your least favorite? Right now it's the bougainvillea because it's not giving me a clear sign of what it needs. The leaves, again. Update on Fred. He's actually fine. I checked with Tim, who knows more about this cactus than I do. Fred's fine. Fred's always been a little bit soft, a little bit squishy, but he's actually doing fine considering the 2 40-degree days that we had in a row. It's all good. Nobody panic. I didn't need to panic. Thank you for joining me. I'm sorry we couldn't be out and about in the garden today. Have a great week. I will see you in the next video. Bye.